She walked in wearing sunglasses indoors. In the middle of a Tuesday afternoon, inside a busy office corridor, wearing long sleeves despite the August heat, and walking with a limp that told a story her mouth hadn't said yet. And she was trembling. Kayla Johnson, Senior Vice President of Creative Strategy at one of Boston's most powerful advertising firms, a woman who had pitched multimillion-dollar campaigns to rooms full of executives without flinching, felt her stomach drop before she even got a full look at her sister's face. Because Kayla already knew, somewhere in the marrow of her bones, in that deep, wordless place that only twins understand, she already knew what had happened, and knowing was worse than seeing. But the seeing, God, the seeing would never leave her. Before we get into what happened behind that closed office door, before we get into what Kayla decided to do about it and how it changed both their lives forever, let's go back, way back. Because to understand this story, you have to understand who these two women are, where they came from, what they meant to each other. Kayla and Kendra Johnson were born 17 minutes apart on a cold February morning in Roxbury, a neighborhood on the south side of Boston, Massachusetts. Their mama, Gloria Johnson, used to say that God made one soul and then thought, wait, this one's too good to only send once, and split it right down the middle. They were identical in every way that mattered. Same warm brown skin, same wide-set dark eyes, same full lips that curved into matching smiles. Same laugh, a deep, full laugh that came from the belly that filled whatever room they were in. Same voice, same walk, same habit of tilting their heads slightly to the left when they were thinking hard about something. Growing up on Walnut Avenue, they shared everything, a bedroom, a bunk bed, a wardrobe, a life. They switched places in school so often that even their teachers eventually gave up trying to tell them apart. They'd walk into each other's classes, answer to each other's names, take each other's quizzes. One time, Kayla sat through an entire gym class that Kendra was supposed to be in, and she hated gym. Just because Kendra had a math test she wasn't ready for, they were inseparable. Two halves of the same soul, that's what their mama used to say. But life has a way of pulling people apart, doesn't it? Even the ones who swore it would never happen to them. After high school, they both went to college, UMass Boston, together, which felt right. But after graduation, the roads split. Kayla landed a junior role at a mid-size advertising agency in Back Bay and threw herself into it with everything she had. Brand strategy, consumer psychology, creative campaigns that made people feel things they didn't know they needed to feel. She had a rare, sharp gift for understanding what moved people and how to use that understanding to build something powerful. She climbed fast. She earned every step. Kendra became a nurse. She went to nursing school at Northeastern, graduated near the top of her class, and took a position at Boston Medical Center in Roxbury, right back where they'd grown up. She had this incredible gift for it, a patience, a warmth, a steadiness under pressure that patients immediately trusted. She was the nurse who held your hand when the doctor delivered bad news, the one who remembered your name and your kids' names the next time you came in. She was the kind of nurse that people specifically requested. Kayla moved to the Seaport District, took a senior role at Harmon and Cross Advertising, one of the biggest firms in New England, and started clawing her way up. 80-hour weeks, pitches and presentations, brand launches and creative campaigns, and late nights fueled by cold takeout and sheer refusal to quit. By 30, she was the youngest SVP the firm had ever made. It went from talking every day to twice a week to Sunday evenings to holidays and birthdays, and somewhere in those in-between spaces, somewhere in the growing distance, Kendra met Devon Harris. God, Devon Harris, Kayla should have seen it. She should have paid more attention. She was building a career, yes. She was clawing towards something, yes. But she was also making excuses to look away from what was right in front of her. Devon was a Boston Police Department detective, homicide division. He had the kind of presence that filled a room, tall, broad-shouldered, with the easy authority of a man who was used to being the most powerful person in any situation he walked into. He dressed well even off duty, spoke carefully, had this way of making you feel like the most interesting person he'd ever met, right up until you weren't useful to him anymore. He met Kendra at Boston Medical Center. She was his nurse during a routine follow-up after he'd been grazed by a bullet during a foot chase in Dorchester. He charmed her over 2 visits, asked for her number on the 3rd, took her to dinner at a South End restaurant that had a 3-month waiting list, brought her flowers twice before he'd even kissed her. At their wedding, a warm June ceremony in the South End, Devon gave a speech that made half the room cry. He talked about Kendra like she was the axis the whole world turned on. He talked about the rest of his life like it was something he was running toward rather than just stumbling into. Kayla stood in her bridesmaid dress and thought, she deserves this. She finally has someone who sees her. She was a fool. The distance between the sisters grew after the wedding. Kayla told herself it was natural. Kendra had a husband now, a home, then a baby, a daughter they named Maya. Kayla had campaigns stacking up and client deadlines pressing in. It made sense that calls got shorter, that visits got rarer, and every time Kayla did see her sister, Kendra seemed smaller, quieter, like someone had been slowly turning a dial, dimming her from the inside. Kayla told herself she was imagining things. She told herself marriage changes people, motherhood changes people. She told herself a lot of things. She told herself a lot of comfortable lies, because the truth, the real truth, was too horrifying to face now. Back to that Tuesday afternoon, Kayla was at her desk in her office on Seaport Boulevard in downtown Boston. Tuesdays were her lighter days, internal creative reviews, no major client presentations. She'd been going through campaign briefs and drinking cold coffee when her assistant's voice came through the intercom. "Miss Johnson," a pause, a careful pause. "Your sister is here, but Kayla, she doesn't look good." Kayla put down her coffee. "Send her in, hold all my calls." Door opened, and for one split second, one terrible, disorienting second, Kayla didn't recognize the woman standing in her doorway. The sunglasses, the long sleeves, the way she was standing, leaning slightly to the right, favoring her left side like every step cost her something. Kayla stood. Her mind was already clicking into overdrive, cataloging details, reading body language, assembling the picture the way she'd trained herself to do in 1,000 high-pressure client rooms. What happened? What's wrong? Kendra didn't answer. She just stood there in the doorway, trembling, tears already sliding down under the edges of those sunglasses. Kayla walked around her desk, closed the door, locked it. Privacy first. Whatever was about to happen needed walls around it. "Take the sunglasses off," Kayla said. Her voice came out harder than she meant it to, but she was terrified, absolutely terrified, and fear for Kayla Johnson had always made her voice go sharp and cold. Kendra shook her head, and that's when Kayla saw the bruises on her sister's neck, finger-shaped. 4 marks on the left side, 1 on the right. Someone had wrapped their hands around Kendra's throat and squeezed. Kayla reached up and took the sunglasses off herself. What she saw, what was underneath those lenses, she would carry for the rest of her life. Kendra's left eye was swollen and completely shut. The skin around it had gone deep purple-black, like a storm cloud pressed against her face. Her bottom lip was split and crusted with dried blood. There was a gash on her cheekbone, and here was the part that hit Kayla like a slap, a gash that Kendra, a trained nurse, had not treated, had not cleaned properly, had not bandaged, because doing so would have required explaining it, and she couldn't explain it. Her one open eye was empty, dead, like someone had reached inside her and scooped out everything that had made her Kendra, the warmth, the light, the competence, the joy, and left behind just a shell wearing her sister's face. "Who did this?" Kayla asked, but she already knew the answer. There's only one person who gets that close, only one person who has that kind of access. "Kayla, please." Kendra's voice was barely a whisper, hoarse, broken. "Please don't call the police. He'll kill me," he said. "He said if I ever told anyone, he would kill me. And Kayla, he is the police." That sentence landed like a stone dropped into still water. "He is the police." Kayla walked back to her desk and sat down slowly, because she needed a second. She needed to breathe through the rage that had just detonated somewhere deep in her chest. "Roll up your sleeves," she said. It wasn't a question, it was a command. Kendra hesitated. Kayla reached over and pushed them up herself, and she had to sit down again, because what was revealed on Kendra's arms, God, the map of it. Old bruises, yellow and fading, layered under fresh ones, purple and raw. Belt marks across her forearms. Circular burns dotting her skin, cigarette burns, small and deliberate, like someone had taken their time with them. Defensive wounds on her knuckles from trying to block punches. And on her wrists, rope burns, the raw red kind. Someone had tied her sister up, a nurse. A woman who spent her days tending to the broken and the hurt, coming home to be broken and hurt herself. Kayla felt something crack wide open inside her, not just anger, something older and deeper than anger, something that had no name but burned like a furnace. "Long," she managed. "3 years, Kendra whispered. "It started about 6 months after we got married. 3 years. 3 years, and Kayla hadn't known, hadn't seen, hadn't been there. "Tell me everything," Kayla said. "From the beginning, every detail." And so Kendra told her. It started the way it always starts, not with fists, with control. Devon wanted to know where she was at all times. He said it was love, said he worried. But a detective worrying is different from a regular man worrying. Devon had resources, access to databases, the ability to run her license plate, check her phone records, track her location through systems that most civilians didn't even know existed. He always knew where she was. He just wanted her to know that he knew. He started commenting on her clothes, too form-fitting for a married woman, he said. She started dressing more conservatively. Then he turned his attention to her co-workers at the hospital. Didn't trust the male doctors, said they looked at her wrong, said her male colleagues were inappropriate. He made so many complaints, one of them directly to the hospital administrator, using his badge and his title, that Kendra eventually requested a transfer to a different unit just to keep the peace. Then it was her friends. Then it was Kayla. He told Kendra that Kayla made her feel bad about her own life, that Kayla was always showing off. And so the calls stopped. The visits stopped. And Devon made sure Kendra had no one left to run to. The first time he hit her was on a Thursday night. He'd had a brutal case, a double homicide in Mattapan, children involved, and he'd come home carrying that darkness with him. He poured it into bourbon, then he poured it into Kendra. He apologized the next morning, brought flowers, cried real tears, said the job was destroying him, said he needed her. She believed him, and here is the thing that Kayla later had to sit with and forgive herself for not understanding sooner. Kendra was a nurse. She was wired to care, wired to look for the wound underneath the wound, wired to believe that people could heal. Devon exploited that in her like it was a blueprint. It happened again, and again, and again. Every bad case, every hard day, every frustrated moment at the precinct, he brought it home and he gave it to Kendra. And because he was a detective, because he knew every trick, every loophole, every way the system protected itself, Kendra had nowhere to go. She couldn't call 911. She couldn't go to the precinct. She couldn't file a report. He had colleagues everywhere. He had friends in every department. He had, on more than one occasion, responded to domestic violence calls in the neighborhood, and she'd watched him talk his way around them with a handshake and a laugh. The system that was supposed to protect her was his system, and he wore it like armor. Then Devon's mother, Diane Harris, moved in, a heavyset woman in her late 50s who had spent 30 years watching her son charm his way through life and had never once asked him to be accountable for anything. She moved into Devon and Kendra's home in Dorchester a year into the marriage and turned a bad situation catastrophic. Diane didn't look the other way. She participated. She criticized everything Kendra did, her cooking, her cleaning, her parenting, the way she spoke, the hours she worked. Never mind that Kendra was working 12-hour nursing shifts and coming home to cook and clean and raise a toddler almost entirely on her own. Diane acted like Kendra was a charity case. Then Devon's sister, Tammy, moved in too, freshly divorced. She showed up with bags and an attitude and treated Kendra like a live-in servant from day one, demanding meals, clean laundry and fetching sodas. And if Kendra pushed back, Tammy ran to Devon, and Devon made Kendra pay for disrespecting his family. 3 abusers, 1 household, 1 woman who couldn't call the police because the police was her husband. But the thing that made Kayla's vision go red, the detail that pushed her completely over the edge, was what Kendra said last. He hit Maya. Silence. Kayla stopped breathing. Last night. Kendra's voice broke completely. She was crying because she was scared. Devon told her to stop. And when she just couldn't stop crying, he slapped her across the face. She's 5 years old, Kayla. She's 5. And I tried to stop him. I tried to protect her. And he grabbed me by the throat and choked me until my vision went black. He slammed my head against the kitchen counter. Over and over. And Diane and Tammy just stood there watching. And then they joined in. Tammy scratched me with a comb. Diane shoved a dish rag in my mouth to shut me up. I literally could not breathe. Kayla put her hands flat on the desk. She had to put something solid between herself and the rage, or she was going to put her fist through a wall. I can't do this anymore, Kendra whispered. I've tried to leave. He always finds me. He has access to every database, every camera, every license plate reader in this city. He always knows where I am. He said if I ever try to take Maya away from him, he'll make sure I disappear. And I believe him. I know he means it. I came to you because you're the only person I could think of who he can't touch. Kendra looked at her sister, her identical twin, the other half of her soul, and she looked like a woman who had already made peace with dying. That was the moment. That was the exact moment. Kayla sat up straight. Her mind clicked over into a gear she'd never used before, not in any boardroom, not on any pitch. Not going to die, Kayla said, and he is never going to touch you again. Give me 3 days. Kendra blinked. What? 3 days? You stay here, my apartment, you and Maya, you don't go anywhere, you don't call anyone, you rest, you eat, you breathe. Kayla, what are you? We're going to switch places. A long silence. We are identical, Kayla said. Same face, same voice, same everything. No one in that house can tell us apart because no one in that house has ever paid close enough attention to either of us. I'm going to walk into that house as Kendra, and I'm going to make Devon Harris regret every single day of the last 3 years. Kendra shook her head frantically. Number, you don't understand how dangerous he is. He's a trained detective, Kayla. He's armed. He knows how to hurt people and make it look like something else. He will hurt you, Kayla smiled. And it was not a gentle smile. It was the smile she gave rival agencies right before she unveiled a campaign that blew theirs clean out of the water. Him try? Now here's what you need to understand about Kayla Johnson. She looks like Kendra, sounds like Kendra, has the same face, the same voice, the same walk. But underneath all of that, she is built completely differently. Kendra is soft, nurturing, kind. She became a nurse because she genuinely cares about people. She has never thrown a punch in her life. Kayla spent 10 years in advertising boardrooms across the city of Boston, reading people, outmaneuvering competitors, staying 10 steps ahead of everyone in the room. She built her career on understanding human behavior, what people fear, what they want, what pressure points make them move. She's hard, strategic, cold when she needs to be, and 3 times a week, rain or shine, she's at a boxing gym in the South End, working bags, sparring, training. She knows how to take a punch. More importantly, she knows how to throw one. So when Kayla walked into that Dorchester house on Wednesday evening, when she used Kendra's keys to unlock the front door and step inside, she was not afraid. She was ready. She was a loaded gun with the safety off. The house looked normal from the outside. Nice block, decent yard, 2-car garage, a detective's salary, good benefits, respectable address. The kind of house that made neighbors assume the family inside it was fine. The inside felt like a tomb, dark, heavy. The kind of air that carries weight, the weight of fear, of violence, of years of suffering pressed into the walls like mold. Even the furniture seemed to hold its breath. Kayla barely had the door closed when the voice cut through the house like a knife. Kendra, that you? Where have you been all day? Devon comes home at 6 and there's nothing even started for dinner. Diane Harris, sitting at the kitchen table with a stack of magazines and a glass of wine, queen of a castle that wasn't hers. Kayla took a breath. Made herself smaller, hunched her shoulders, lowered her eyes, softened her voice into Kendra's register. I'm sorry, she said. I'll start it now. Better, Diane said, not even looking up. And make something good this time. The chicken you made Monday was too dry. This woman had been living in her son's house for 2 years, contributing absolutely nothing, and had the nerve to critique the cooking. Kayla opened the refrigerator and started pulling out ingredients. A few minutes later, Devon's sister Tammy drifted in from the living room. Contemptuous expression, that particular kind of laziness that comes from never being held accountable for anything. Oh good, you're home, Tammy said, dropping onto the couch. Bring me a soda and some chips. I'm starving. Kayla brought her the soda, and as she handed it over, she studied Tammy's face with the calm, practiced attention she gave to everyone she was about to go to war with, memorizing, filing away. Then she heard small feet on the stairs. Maya, 5 years old, wide brown eyes, curly hair pulled into 2 puffs. She crept down the steps like a mouse trying not to be noticed, quiet, careful, watching the room before committing to it. Mommy, she whispered. Kayla knelt down and opened her arms. Maya ran into them, buried her face in Kayla's shoulder, and Kayla held her niece for the first time in months, felt her tiny body trembling, pressed her lips to the top of her head. This ends now, Kayla promised silently. I swear to God, this ends now. At 8 o'clock, the garage door groaned open. Devon Harris was home. Kayla's entire body went still, every muscle coiled. The door slammed. He was still in his work clothes, dark slacks, a pressed button down, detective's badge clipped to his belt, service weapon holstered at his side. He smelled like the precinct and something darker underneath it. Kendra, he called out loud and sharp. Where's my dinner? He was tall. Kayla gave him that. 6'2", maybe 200 pounds. The kind of man who carried authority on his shoulders, who had learned early that his size and his badge together were a conversation ender. He was handsome in the way that powerful men often are, not gentle handsome, but commanding handsome. The kind that got mistaken for strength. Kayla had spent 10 years studying people like Devon Harris, men who performed authority like it was a product they were selling. She could see straight through him, through the badge, the pressed shirt, the practiced calm, right down to the thing underneath. "It's ready," she said quietly, setting his plate on the table. She had deliberately underseasoned everything. Not enough to be obvious, just enough. Devon sat down, didn't say thank you, didn't acknowledge anyone, picked up his fork, cut into the steak, took a bite, and his face shifted. "What the hell is this?" He dropped his fork onto the plate. "This tastes like cardboard." "Can't you do anything right?" Diane chimed in immediately. "I've been telling you, Devon, she just cannot cook." Tammy laughed from the couch. "The girl can't do anything right." Devon stood up. And that shift from sitting to standing, from annoyed to something darker, Kayla watched it happen with clinical precision. He moved toward her. His body was all predator, the posture of a man who had done this 1,000 times, who was used to a smaller, softer woman shrinking back. Kayla didn't move. Didn't shift, didn't flinch. Just looked him directly in the eye. She watched his face register confusion, just a flicker, but it was there. "Work all day," he said, voice low and deliberate. "I put food on this table, clothes on your back, a roof over your head. And this is what you give me?" He raised his hand. She'd been waiting for it. She caught his wrist in midair. The shock on Devon's face was something Kayla would remember for a long time. He stared at his wrist, locked in her grip. He pulled. Held. Kayla squeezed, not enough to break anything, but enough to make a point. Enough to let him understand that something in this house had fundamentally changed. She released him after 3 seconds and turned away calmly. "Dinner's getting cold," she said to the room. "Y'all should eat." And she walked away, left all three of them standing there in the kitchen, staring at each other, Devon cradling his wrist, Diane with her mouth hanging open, Tammy frozen on the couch upstairs. Kayla put Maya to bed. She read her The Paper-Bag Princess, a story about a princess who rescues herself and decides she doesn't need the prince after all. Maya was asleep before the last page. Kayla sat on the edge of the bed and watched her breathe for a long time. She thought about all the nights this little girl had fallen asleep listening to her mother being hurt. Listening to a man she called Daddy use his fists like weapons. Never again, she thought. Not one more night. Around 11 o'clock, the footsteps came. 2 sets, Diane and Tammy, moving down the hall. Kayla stepped into the hallway before they reached the door, pulling it closed behind her so Maya wouldn't wake up. The 2 women stood there with their arms crossed. Diane in front, Tammy just behind. "We need to talk," Diane said. "About what?" Kayla kept her voice neutral. "About your little attitude," Tammy said. "About what you pulled downstairs." Kayla let a moment pass. Then she said very quietly, "The house is in Kendra's name." "Let's not forget that detail." Diane's face went red. "That house was bought with my son's money. The down payment came from Kendra's parents," Kayla said. Her boardroom voice was coming through now, precise, measured, the kind that made rooms go quiet. "The deed is in her name. Legally, this is her house, which makes the 2 of you guests. Guests who don't pay rent, don't contribute to utilities, and don't help with any household expenses." Tammy shoved her, not a full push, a testing shove. Kayla didn't move, not even a half step. "Touch me again," Kayla said. "Or what?" Tammy shoved her again, harder. Kayla still didn't move. "Let me explain something to both of you," she said, ice cold now. "I have documentation, 3 years of it, medical records, and before you say anything, yes, a nurse knows exactly how to document her own injuries, and Kendra has been doing exactly that. Photographs, witness statements, evidence of every assault that has taken place in this house. Evidence that puts all 3 of you as accessories to felony assault. As conspirators, that carries 5 to 10 years in this state." Both women had gone pale. "So here is how tonight ends," Kayla continued. "You go back to your rooms, you don't touch me, you don't threaten me, and tomorrow morning we're going to have a very serious conversation about the future of this household. Are we clear?" Silence. Then Diane turned and walked back down the hall. Tammy followed, shooting a glance over her shoulder, half rage, half something she wasn't used to feeling. Fear. Kayla went back into Maya's room, sat in the chair by the window, listened to her niece breathe. That was round 1. She knew round 2 was coming in the morning. And she knew round 2 would be different, because Devon Harris wasn't just an angry man with his fists. He was a detective with a badge, a gun, a city full of colleagues, and 17 years of knowing exactly how to make problems disappear. But Kayla Johnson had not come here to disappear. She had come here to make sure he never forgot what happened when he chose the wrong twin. If you are watching this right now and something in this story feels familiar, if you recognize the isolation, the control, the slow erasure of someone you love, please keep watching. Because what comes next is about breaking that cycle. And it starts with one person who refused to look away. Subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss a story like this one. Kayla had cameras everywhere, not the visible kind, the kind that serves as a deterrent, the kind you install to scare off package thieves. No, These were small, discreet, tucked into bookshelves and positioned above door frames. Kayla had worked on enough brand security and crisis management campaigns to know exactly what equipment told an undeniable story. She'd placed every camera the previous afternoon before Devon got home, working quickly and quietly while Diane was napping and Tammy was watching television, every room, every angle, all of it recording. So when Devon, Diane, and Tammy retreated to Diane's bedroom that night and closed the door and whispered, they weren't actually alone. Kayla heard every word. "We can't let this continue," Diane said. "She's destroying this family." "What are we supposed to do?" Devon asked. His voice had the clipped, analytical quality of a man thinking tactically. "We can't touch her the way she's acting. We can't get the department involved, not without this becoming a whole thing. She has something on us and I need to find out what." "Need to remove her," Tammy said. "Get her out of the picture." Silence. "Like that," Diane said quickly. "But there are other ways." "Ways," a pause, the sound of someone shifting on a mattress. "Sleeping pills," Diane said. "We crush them up. Put them in her morning coffee. Once she's out, we call for a psychiatric evaluation. Tell them she's become erratic, violent, unstable, a danger to herself and her child." A beat. "Devon, you know people. You can make a call. Get someone out here who won't ask too many questions." There it was. A detective's wife, drugged and committed on a detective's say-so. No paper trail, no investigation. Just a woman who disappeared into the mental health system while her husband filed for emergency custody of their daughter. Devon's voice, low and steady. "And while she's being evaluated, I file the papers. Emergency custody of Maya. By the time she's out, if she gets out, it's already done." Kayla sat in the dark of Kendra's bedroom and listened to all of it, not afraid. That wasn't what she felt. What she felt was cold. The specific coldness that comes when you see someone for exactly who they are and the last remaining shred of disbelief disappears. These people weren't just cruel, they were methodical. They had the tools, the access, and the complete absence of conscience required to actually pull this off. Devon Harris could make a phone call and have a woman committed. He knew that. He was counting on it. Fine, Kayla thought. Let them try. The next morning, Kayla came downstairs at the usual time. Pleasant. Moving through the kitchen quietly, not taking up too much space. She watched Diane at the counter, watched her open a cabinet, watched her take out a small orange prescription bottle, shake 3 pills into her palm, and crush them between 2 spoons with practiced ease. She watched Diane stir the powder into a cup of coffee, watched her wipe the spoon clean, watched her compose her face into something that was meant to look like warmth. "Here you go, baby," Diane said, bringing the cup over. "You look tired, sweetheart. This'll help you relax." Kayla took the cup, brought it to her lips, pretended to sip. Then, while Diane's back was turned, poured it slowly into the base of the potted plant by the window. She sat back down, let her breathing slow, let her head drop forward slightly, let her eyelids go heavy. "It's working," Tammy whispered from the doorway. "Give it another minute," Diane said, Devon's voice low and eager. "Call them now." "Wait, make sure she's all the way under." Anne crossed the kitchen and shook Kayla's shoulder. Kendra, honey, can you hear me?" "Nothing." Kayla stayed limp, slow breathing, unresponsive. "She's out," Diane said, triumphant. "Call them." Devon picked up his phone, and that's when Kayla opened her eyes. All 3 of them stumbled backward. Devon nearly dropped his phone. Tammy made a sound that was half gasp, half shriek. Diane turned gray. "I didn't drink it," Kayla said. She stood up, slow and deliberate. "I watched you crush the pills, Diane. I watched you stir them in. I watched every single step, and I recorded all of it." She pulled out her phone, played back 30 seconds of clear, high-definition video. Diane at the counter, the pill bottle, the spoon, the coffee cup, all of it. Devon's jaw tightened. A detective's jaw, the jaw of a man recalculating. "Attempted poisoning," Kayla said. "Class B felony under Massachusetts law. 20 years minimum." She set the phone on the table. "I also have full audio from last night's planning session. Every word. Devon calling in a favor to have a woman falsely committed. Conspiracy to commit forcible medical detention. Filing false reports. Abuse of police authority. Those charges don't just go to the DA, they go to internal affairs." Devon went very, very still. The way men go still when something hits them in a place they thought was protected. Internal affairs. 2 words that could end a career. 2 words that, for a detective with 17 years on the force, were worse than handcuffs. "Between the 3 of you," Kayla continued, "you are looking at serious time. And Devon, you're looking at the end of everything you've built. Your badge, your pension, your reputation, your freedom." Diane started crying, real tears. "You can't do this. You can't destroy our family, your family." Kayla's voice was very quiet, the kind of quiet that has fire underneath it. you destroyed your own family. Night Devon first put his hands on Kendra. The night you watched it happen and cheered instead of stopping it. The night one of you slapped a 5-year-old child across the face for crying. She let that land. You destroyed your own family. I'm just the person who showed up to document it. She reached into her bag and placed a thick folder on the kitchen table. Inside, medical records, photographs, DVDs with video footage burned onto them, USB drives labeled by date and incident. Bank statements, 3 years of evidence, color-coded by category, organized with the precision of someone whose career was built on making every detail tell the right story. And this time, every detail was true. This is everything, Kayla said. 3 years of crimes committed in this house, plus everything from the past 2 days. She looked at Devon. You have 2 choices, just 2. Choice 1, she said. I take this folder to the Suffolk County District Attorney's office on Monday morning. And I take a copy, separately, to Internal Affairs at BPD. I've done my research. Domestic violence by a law enforcement officer carries enhanced sentencing in Massachusetts. The attempted poisoning is a felony. The plan to abuse police contacts to falsely commit a woman is a federal civil rights violation. Devon, you are not just looking at prison, you are looking at federal charges. Devon had not moved, had not spoken. He was running numbers behind his eyes, checking exits, finding none. Choice 2. Kayla pulled out a second set of documents, crisp, clean, already prepared. Divorce papers, already drafted, already filled out, just waiting for signatures. Devon signs these papers. Full, uncontested divorce. Kendra retains the house. It's already in her name, so this is non-negotiable. Devon agrees to sole legal and physical custody of Maya going to Kendra, with 0 visitation rights and 0 contact, given the documented child abuse on record. Devon agrees to child support payments of $3,000 per month until Maya turns 18. That's 13 years. Do the math. Devon was doing the math. She could see it happening behind his eyes. Diane and Tammy sign agreements to vacate these premises within 24 hours. They surrender any claim to this property or any contents within it, and agree to maintain a minimum of 500 feet distance from Kendra and Maya at all times, permanently. Devon, Kayla said, leaning forward slightly, you resign from the Boston Police Department within 30 days. Quietly. Medical leave, personal reasons, I don't care what you tell them. You will not keep a badge and a gun and access to every database in this city while Kendra and Maya are still living here. That is non-negotiable. Devon found his voice. You can't make me resign, Kayla agreed. I can't make you do anything, but I can take this. She touched the folder to Internal Affairs, and they can make you resign, with a lot more noise, a lot more shame, and a criminal record attached. So yes, your choice. Devon's hands were shaking, just slightly, but Kayla saw it. Also seen your financials, she said. I know about the gambling debts, the sports betting account, the $17,000 owed to a private individual in Quincy, and I know about your mother's settlement from your father's workplace accident, $900,000, stored in a jar in the garden shed, wrapped in plastic and buried under a bag of mulch. Diane made a sound like she'd been struck. I'm thorough, Kayla said simply. You'll liquidate what needs to be liquidated. You'll make arrangements, because the alternative is prison, the end of your career, and your daughter growing up knowing exactly who her father was. And I will make sure she knows every detail. She gathered her documents and stood up. You have until 5 o'clock today. If you choose option 2, Devon signs these papers and we go to the bank together to set up the payment structure. If you choose option 1, or if you don't choose, I make 2 phone calls, the DA and Internal Affairs. And you're finished by dinner time. She picked up her bag. I'm going to pick up Maya from school now. When I get back, I want your decision ready. She picked up Maya, brought her to her own apartment, her real apartment in the South End, where Kendra was waiting. The reunion between mother and daughter, there are no words for it, really. Words flatten these things, make them smaller than they are. So let's just say Kendra fell to her knees the second Maya came through the door. And Maya ran to her and held her with both arms and cried. And Kendra held her back and rocked her and cried too. The 2 of them stayed like that for a long time, just holding on. Kayla watched from the doorway, her back against the frame, arms crossed, eyes burning. This, she thought. This is what I came for. While Maya watched cartoons, the sisters talked in the kitchen. It's almost over, Kayla told her. By tonight, you're free, officially on paper free. Kayla, what did you do to them? Kendra asked. She wasn't sure whether to be terrified or relieved. Everything necessary, Kayla said. Nothing more, nothing less. At 4:30, Devon called. We'll sign, he said. His voice was unrecognizable, flat, hollowed out. We'll do whatever you want, just keep internal affairs out of it. That depends entirely on you from this point forward, Kayla said. I'll be there in 30 minutes. She looked at her sister. Get your shoes, she said. It's time for the final act. If this story is moving you, if you feel the weight of what Kendra survived and what Kayla was willing to do for her, hit that like button right now. Let the algorithm know this story matters. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Let's get back to Boston. They walked in together side by side. Mirror images. Two women with the same face, same posture, same measured stride. The looks on their faces, Devon's, Diane's, and Tammy's, were something Kayla would keep with her for a long time. It was the look of people watching a trick reveal itself. The dawning, sickening understanding that they had been played from the very first moment. Devon's mouth opened and closed. Diane gripped the edge of the kitchen counter. Tammy sat down slowly, like her legs had stopped working. "Hello, Devon," Kendra said softly. Her voice was quiet, but different from the voice she'd used in this house for 3 years. This wasn't the quiet of someone trying not to be noticed. This was the quiet of someone who has survived something and knows it. "My sister saved me," Kendra said. "She did what I couldn't do for myself. She fought back. And now you're going to give me my life back." Kayla spread the divorce papers across the table. "Sign here, here, and initial here." Devon picked up the pen. His hand was shaking. He looked at the papers for a long moment, at the lines, the terms, the life he was about to formally surrender. Then he looked up at Kayla. "I could make your life very difficult," he said, quietly. Like a man reminding himself of who he used to be, Kayla leaned across the table until her face was close to his. "Try it," she said, soft as a whisper. "Please try it right now and give me a reason to go straight to internal affairs tonight instead of waiting for Monday morning. I am asking you, I am begging you." Devon signed the papers, every page, every line, every initial. Hand shaking the entire time. Diane signed next. She looked at Kayla with pure, undisguised hatred as she put her name on the line. "Evil," she said. "You're the devil," Kayla said. "I'm justice, there's a difference." Tammy signed without a word. When all the papers were collected and secured in Kayla's bag, signed, witnessed, enforceable, Kayla stood up straight. "You have until tomorrow at 5 p.m. to be fully out of this house," she said. "Take your personal belongings. Leave anything that belongs to Kendra or Maya. A sheriff's deputy will be here at 5 o'clock to supervise. If you are not out, you will be removed by force." Devon stood. For one long moment, Kayla watched to see if he was going to make a final move. She was ready for it. She was almost hopping for it, but he didn't. He just stood there, broken, defeated, smaller than he'd ever looked in his life. "Who are you?" he asked, not angry, just lost. "What kind of person does this?" "The kind who loves her sister," Kayla said. She took Kendra's hand. "Let's go home." The next day at 5 o'clock sharp, Kayla was at the Dorchester house with a sheriff's deputy at her side. The house was empty. Devon's clothes were gone. His badge, which he'd left on the kitchen counter, whether by accident or as some final statement she couldn't quite read, lay alone on the counter. Diane's magazines, her wine glasses, her 2 years of accumulated clutter, gone. Tammy's bags were gone. The smell of their presence was already fading. Kayla picked up the badge, turned it over in her hand. Put it in her bag. She would mail it to the precinct anonymously, along with a typed note that said, "Your detective resigned for personal reasons. Please process accordingly." Then she changed all the locks, every one of them. She installed a security system, professional grade, with visible cameras at the front door and the back, motion sensors, alarm that connected directly to her phone. She wanted Kendra to feel safe in her own home. She wanted the house to feel different. Like it had been reclaimed, because it had. In the weeks that followed, Kayla watched her sister come back. It didn't happen all at once. Healing never does. It came in pieces, in moments. The first time Kendra laughed, really laughed, the deep belly laugh they'd shared since childhood, Kayla had to leave the room for a minute because her eyes were burning. Kendra went back to Boston Medical Center. She was nervous the first day. She stood at the entrance of the ward and took 3 deep breaths before walking in. But the moment she stepped into her unit, the moment a patient recognized her and said, "Oh, thank God, she's back, she's the good one," something in her face settled, like a key turning in a lock, like remembering who she was a nurse. She had always been a nurse. Even in the worst of it, she had gone to work and cared for strangers with the same hands that came home to be hurt. And now those hands were just hers again. No bruises, no rope burns, just capable, skilled, healing hands. Maya changed too. The flinching stopped. The crouching, quiet presence of a child who'd learned to take up as little space as possible slowly relaxed, opened, expanded. She started singing to herself around the house. She made a best friend at school, a loud, delightful little girl named Bee who came over for playdates and filled the house with noise and laughter. Maya started drawing pictures of herself and her mommy, and in every single picture, both of them were smiling. Devon tried to fight the custody agreement, of course. Men like him always do. Even when they're beaten, even when they know they're beaten, they push back, because control is the only language they've ever learned to speak. But Kayla hired Kendra, the sharpest family lawyer in Suffolk County, and sat beside her in that hearing room with every piece of evidence organized and ready, the medical records. The photographs, the video footage, the audio recordings, the documented evidence of 3 years of systematic abuse. The video from the morning Devon grabbed Kendra by the throat, caught on camera, clear as daylight, and the recording of Devon himself planning to abuse his police contacts to have his wife falsely committed. The judge reviewed the evidence. His expression didn't change. Judges are trained not to let their expressions change. But his eyes said everything. He terminated Devon's parental rights before the hearing was even over. No visitation, no contact, not now, not ever. Devon also received a formal recommendation for termination from Internal Affairs. The gambling debts, the abuse of police databases to monitor his wife, the conspiracy to have her falsely committed using departmental contacts, it was enough. He resigned before they could fire him. But the record followed him. It always follows them. The child support payments began arriving monthly. Devon had to sell his car, liquidate his retirement account, take out a personal loan to cover Diane's debts. Good. Let him rebuild from the bottom. Let him understand what it feels like to have everything taken from you, not by cruelty, but by consequence. Diane filed for bankruptcy after the forced liquidation of her hidden savings. She was staying with a relative somewhere outside the city, gone from Kendra's life. That was all that mattered. Tammy went back to her ex-husband, which was, by all accounts, its own private consequence. The three of them were scattered, separated. The system of abuse that had sustained itself for 3 years, that had required all of them working in concert to maintain, was broken apart. It couldn't survive without cooperation. And the cooperation was gone. 6 months later, something happened that Kayla hadn't planned for. Kendra met someone. His name was Marcus Webb. A pediatric physical therapist. Kendra met him at Boston Medical Center. He was working with one of her young patients, a 7-year-old recovering from a car accident, and Kendra watched him spend 40 minutes coaxing that scared little boy into trying to walk again with the patience of someone who genuinely loved what he did. After the session, she stopped him in the hallway and told him he was wonderful with the kid. He said he just needed someone to believe he could do it. Kendra called Kayla that same evening. Kayla ran a background check within the hour. Full search, social media audit, employment verification, references. He was clean. He was genuinely, demonstrably clean. You already looked him up, didn't you? Kendra said. It wasn't a question. Completely, Kayla said. Kayla paused. A pause. Then Kendra's laugh, that full, real laugh, came through the phone, and Kayla leaned against her kitchen counter and let it wash over her. They were taking it slow. Kendra wasn't ready to rush anything. Maybe she'd never be ready for marriage again, and that was fine. That was more than fine. She didn't need a partner to be complete. She was already complete. She was already whole. But watching her sister open herself up, cautiously, carefully, like a window cracked after a long winter, watching her allow the possibility of warmth to exist again, of trust to be rebuilt on a foundation that deserved it, that was the real victory, not the divorce papers. Not the signed agreements, not Devon Harris's broken career and scattered life. The real victory was seeing Kendra remember who she had been before he tried to erase her. People ask Kayla if she regrets it. They ask her at industry dinners when the story comes up. Colleagues ask her carefully, with the particular delicacy of people who are not sure if they're impressed or horrified. Strangers who have heard pieces of it ask her in passing. Her answer is always the same. No, not for 1 second. Here's what people don't understand about domestic violence, especially domestic violence committed by law enforcement. The system is not built to protect victims. It is built, however unintentionally, to protect abusers. And when the abuser is the system, when he wears a badge, has colleagues in every precinct, knows every loophole and every way to silence a complaint, the victim has nowhere to go. Absolutely nowhere. She cannot call 911. She cannot go to the station. She cannot file a report without it landing on someone's desk who knows her husband's name. Kendra knew this. That's why she stayed for 3 years, not out of weakness, out of survival. She was calculating odds every single day, and every day the odds told her the same thing. The system will not save you. Not this time. On average, a domestic violence victim attempts to leave 7 times before she successfully gets out. 7 times. And in the first 2 years after leaving, a significant number of those women are killed by their abusers. The danger doesn't end when you walk out the door. In many cases, especially when the abuser has power, resources, and access, it escalates. The system failed Kendra for 3 years. The mechanisms that were supposed to protect her were controlled by the man who was hurting her. And Kendra, alone and isolated and exhausted, didn't have access to any of them, so Kayla became the system. She used every skill she had, every instinct, every strategy, every tool her career had sharpened in her, and she aimed it at the right target. She documented. She planned. She read the room and stayed 3 steps ahead. She did what she'd always been good at. She built something, piece by piece, until it told a story no one could argue with. Was it all strictly by the book? The impersonation was ethically grey, but Kendra gave full consent for Kayla to be in her home and use her identity in that context. Every recording was made in Kendra's house, with Kendra's permission. The documentation of Devon's assaults, on record, on video, on audio. Kayla was meticulous. She made sure every piece of evidence was clean. Was it right? That question has a simpler answer. Yes, without hesitation, without qualification. What's more important, following every technical rule in the book, or saving a woman's life, protecting a 5-year-old child from growing up in a house of violence? Kayla knows what she chose, and she'd choose it again. Are you still with us? We're almost at the end of this journey, but before we get there, if this story has moved you, if it's made you angry or hopeful or determined, hit that like button now and drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. We want to know how far this reaches. Now let's finish what we started. There's something Kayla thinks about, late sometimes, when the city is quiet. She thinks about a conversation she had with Maya 6 months after everything at a park near Franklin Field on a Sunday afternoon in October. The 3 of them were sitting on a bench in the fall sun, eating ice cream, watching kids on the climbing structure. Just an ordinary afternoon. The kind of afternoon that used to not be possible. Maya was licking chocolate off her fingers, watching a group of children chase each other across the grass, and then she looked up at Kayla with her big brown eyes and said, "Aunt Kayla, thank you for saving my mommy." Kayla looked at her. "What do you mean, baby?" "I used to be scared all the time," Maya said, with the simple directness of a 5-year-old who doesn't know enough yet to soften hard truths. "Scared of daddy, scared of grandma, scared to make noise, scared to be happy. Like if I was too happy something bad would happen." She paused. "But I'm not scared anymore. Mommy's not sad anymore, and that's because of you." She went back to her ice cream. Kayla looked out at the park and didn't say anything for a while. That's why she thought. That right there is the entire reason for moments like that. For a 5-year-old child who can finally just eat ice cream on a Sunday afternoon without being afraid. For everyone watching this who might be living what Kendra lived, listen, just for a moment, listen. He has told you that you can't survive without him. He has told you no one else would want you. He has told you you're crazy, that it's your fault, that if you just did things right, he wouldn't have to hurt you. He has told you he'll take your children if you leave. He has told you he'll kill you if you tell anyone. He may have told you that the people who are supposed to help you will believe him, not you. He may be right that the system isn't built for you. But you are not alone. You have never been alone. You can escape. People do it every day. It requires planning. It requires patience. It requires help. But it is possible. Start small if you have to. Document everything as a nurse. Kendra knew how to do this, and she did it for 3 years, even when she felt like it would never matter. Take photos. Save threatening messages somewhere he can't find. Email evidence to an account he doesn't know about. Reach out to a domestic violence organization. They have people whose entire job is helping you create a safety plan. If your abuser has power, a badge, a title, community standing, these organizations have experience with exactly that situation. They know how to work around systems that protect the wrong people. The National Domestic Violence Hotline is 1-800-799-7233, available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They can help you find resources in your area, help you plan, help you understand your options. If you're watching from somewhere outside the US, search for your country's domestic violence hotline. They exist almost everywhere. Use them. For everyone watching who isn't in an abusive relationship, this part is for you too. Pay attention. Your sister, your friend, your coworker, your neighbor, the woman in your family who stopped showing up to things, who started wearing more coverage in the summer, who makes excuses for her partner's behavior, who seems like she's disappearing from herself a little more each time you see her. Don't assume she'll ask for help when she's ready. She may never feel ready. The isolation is designed to make her feel like there is no one to ask. You ask. Find a private moment and say, "Are you safe? Is he hurting you?" Give her space to answer honestly. Believe her when she does. Don't judge her for staying. Don't tell her what she should do. Don't pressure her. Just offer. Be consistent. Show up. And if you have resources, skills, connections, financial means, physical safety, a spare room, a platform, whatever you have, use them. Be willing to pick it up and aim it where it needs to go. Devon Harris no longer carries a badge. His career, 17 years of it, is gone. His pension reduced. His reputation in the only world he ever cared about is destroyed. The story got out, the way stories always do. Colleagues asked questions. Answers came. He started over somewhere at the bottom, in a city where his name didn't mean anything yet. Every month, a child support payment leaves his account. A direct line, a financial tether, connecting his choices to their consequences. And every time that payment goes through, somewhere in Boston, a little girl has what she needs. Deanne Harris is alone. She made a choice for years to enable and participate in the abuse of a woman who never did anything but try to be part of her family. Those choices had costs. She is paying them. Tammy is navigating her own circumstances. No free ride, no servant, no family to fall back on. And Kendra is thriving. That word feels insufficient. Thriving. Like it's not big enough to hold what's happened to her. The woman who walked into Kayla's office on a Tuesday afternoon, barely able to stay upright, who had gone gray inside from 3 years of systematic destruction, that woman is back at Boston Medical Center, caring for patients with those same capable hands. She is laughing her full laugh again. She is present. She is vivid. She takes up space in a room the way she's supposed to. She is raising a daughter who is learning in real time that women are strong, that love does not hurt, that home is supposed to feel safe. Kendra and Marcus Webb went on their first date in November. A small restaurant in the South End, good food, good wine, a table by the window. She called Kayla afterward, said he was kind, said he made her feel like herself. Kayla told her to take her time. Kendra said she knew. They talked for 2 hours that night, the way they used to talk every single day. Two halves of the same soul, finding their way back to each other. There is a lesson in this story. Several of them, actually. The first is this: love is not supposed to cost you yourself. Love is not supposed to be something you survive. If the person who says they love you is also the person you are most afraid of, that is not love. That is control wearing love's mask. And no matter how long you have been told otherwise, you deserve better. You have always deserved better, and better is possible. The second is this: silence is a choice, and it has consequences. The silence of neighbors who heard screaming and told themselves it wasn't their business. The silence of colleagues who noticed but didn't ask. The silence of a world that treats what happens behind closed doors as private. That silence is what allows men like Devon Harris to operate for 3 years, for 5 years, for lifetimes. When we choose silence, we choose the abuser. We don't mean to, but we do. The third is this: every skill you have is a tool, and tools are only as good as the will of the person holding them. If you have ability, organizational, financial, professional, physical, creative, use it for someone who can't use it for themselves right now. Be Kayla for someone. Not everyone has a twin sister who is a senior advertising executive who boxes 3 times a week, but everyone deserves someone who shows up. And the fourth, which is the one Kayla Johnson carries with her every day: sometimes doing what is right and doing what is comfortable are not the same thing. Sometimes justice requires you to go somewhere you've never been before, to become a version of yourself you didn't know you had in you. You have to be willing to cross the line when the line is standing between you and the person you love. Kayla crossed it. She'd cross it again without breaking stride. My name is Kayla Johnson. I'm 32 years old. I'm a senior vice president of creative strategy at one of Boston's largest advertising firms. I spent 3 days impersonating my identical twin sister, a nurse named Kendra, to dismantle the system of abuse that had been destroying her life. Her abuser was a Boston police detective who used his badge, his access, and his authority to make her feel like she had nowhere to turn. He was wrong. She had me. I would do every single piece of it over again. I would change nothing. If this story moved you, if it made you angry or sad or hopeful or determined to be better, to do more, to show up differently for the people around you, let us know. Hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Drop a comment telling us where you're watching from and what this meant to you. Stay safe out there. Look out for each other. And remember, if you see something, say something. because silence is what abusers count on. And we are done being silent.